Hello, thank you for taking a moment to watch this video. And on this specific training, we are going to continue going through our HubSpot to PhoneBurner integration training series. Hopefully you've been following along with all of the other videos, but of course, if this is the first video you're watching in the series, make sure you go back to the beginning of the series because they all build on each other. Now, speaking of building on each other, as you're using the integration between HubSpot and PhoneBurner and you're making your calls, remember, we can be syncing data over into PhoneBurner, and as we're dialing through the contacts that are over in PhoneBurner, there may be a case where you want to be able to jump from PhoneBurner to that record in HubSpot really quickly without having to do a quick search. If you watch my other videos, remember I just called George Sample and then I needed to go see George Sample in HubSpot, and so I did a copy of his email, and then I went to his record over in HubSpot, and or I went into HubSpot and did a search for George Sample, found him, and then opened him up. That takes time, right? And we want to make things happen as fast as possible. So let me show you how you can create a workflow that will automatically create a link back to the contact record in HubSpot that can then be synced over to PhoneBurner. So let's start with a new workflow. So let's click on Create Workflow from Scratch. And it's going to be contact base. We're going to go Next. So whenever you're creating a workflow, obviously there needs to be a trigger. What is that trigger going to be? Now, depending on how you're defining which record should sync over to PhoneBurner may change how you set up your trigger. So for example, I might do the trigger based off of a contact being added to a specific list. Right? So if I create a list in HubSpot called Sync to PhoneBurner and records that are added to that list then start syncing over to PhoneBurner, those would be great records for me to run through this specific workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. But of course, you can use any trigger that you want as long as it's going to trigger and update the contacts that will actually be updated or synced over to PhoneBurner. So let's go ahead and apply the filter and save that. All right, so now what are we going to do? How are we going to create this URL? Well, first we need to have an action. So I'm going to click on the plus, and it's going to be an update to a property. So we're going to set a property value. Now, I don't have the property value that I want to update yet. I need a property in HubSpot to store this link, this URL back to the HubSpot contact. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new contact property. I'm going to call this HubSpot URL. And just put it in the contact information group. In this particular case, obviously you can do whatever you want on your end. Hit next. And this is going to be a single line text. Next. Sure, why not? Hit create. And I'm going to save it. So now I have this new property. Oh, what did I do here? I need to, what is the value going to be? Sorry, was not ready to close that out. What is this value going to be? It needs to be a unique URL for each of our records. So here's the cool thing. We're going to take this URL here minus the very end, because that's the actual record ID, and that's going to be unique for everyone. So I don't want to copy the whole thing. If I copy the whole thing, then every record would, oh, that's not what I wanted. Let's go back here. Try copying that again. Oh, it is what I wanted, but it's actually realizing that that's George Sample, and that's not what I want, because we don't want everybody syncing back to George Sample. We want just the URL here. Now it looks right. And then you see right here where it says contact token, we're going to take that, grab the contact ID. There should be a field, an option for that, record ID. There it is. So we're going to take this URL and insert the record ID at the end of it. We'll go ahead and save that. And that's it. So any record that's going to be part of the Sync to PhoneBurner list is also going to get updated with a link in the HubSpot URL field that we created. So we're going to go ahead and review. And we can say yes, enroll existing contacts who meet the trigger criteria as of now. I don't need re-enrollment because once they go through this, once they've got this URL assigned to them or added to that property, I don't need it added again, so we're done. So I don't need to worry about re-enrollment on this one, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. All right, so now we have this workflow running. Let's give it a name. I'm not going to worry about a description, and we'll go ahead and save that. All right, so now we're good. We've got our 3 workflows running. That one is still processing. Hopefully it'll start getting everybody updated, but no big deal that it hasn't updated yet because we don't even have it syncing over to PhoneBurner yet. So we're going to jump back over to our integration settings, go to our connected app to PhoneBurner, and we're going to update our integration settings. I'm going to switch this to my main one. Let's go to Edit Sync Settings. And right here in mapping your fields, we're going to add a new field mapping. So we know the field on the HubSpot side, HubSpot URL, but we have not created this field on the PhoneBurner side. So let's jump over to PhoneBurner. Let's create a new custom field in PhoneBurner called HubSpot URL. It'll just be a text field, and we'll save it. There we go. Let's jump back over to HubSpot. Click here, refresh. HubSpot URL is there now, and we're going to go ahead and sync that. We don't need to sync it 2 ways. We can just sync it from HubSpot. Sync data syncs only to PhoneBurner. That's the one we want. We only want to take this from HubSpot to PhoneBurner. If it changes on the PhoneBurner side, we don't want that syncing back to HubSpot. We really only want it coming from HubSpot to PhoneBurner. And so we'll just do that and save that. Next, 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 save and sync. All right, so now we should have, that should start syncing those contact records. But the question is, have they all been updated with the URL yet? Okay, so now we should have 89 records in PhoneBurner that have the HubSpot contact ID on them. The question is, which are those records, right? So let's jump back over to PhoneBurner. I don't remember exactly which ones they were, but I believe it's the bulk of the ones that are moved into the contacts folder. So let's just go ahead and jump into a dial session. I'm sure we'll find at least one of these with one. And we'll go ahead and click manual. Doesn't really matter what we choose here. Get connected, start dialing. And there we go. So here, as we're making calls, so I'm calling Jamie. Let's say I connect with Jamie. We have a great call, and for whatever reason, I need to access the full record in HubSpot. Rather than copying the URL from here and going and searching for it, I can actually now just click on this option here, which will take me directly to that specific record in HubSpot, saving me more time, right? And that's what PhoneBurner is all about. It takes a little bit of time to get everything configured and set up, but once it's set up, it's going to save you and your team a ton of time. So anyway, that's it for this specific training. Thank you for joining me, and happy dialing.